Matt, I also just learned that the Prime Minister is also a former rodeo rider. His event was Young Calves, but we're not here to talk about that. We are, of course, here to talk about Xi Jinping's visit to Seattle.
I rode once and fell off.
You rode once and fell off. All right. Well, he got back on the horse, which is the most important thing to do. Let's talk about this visit. What is the definition of success for Xi Jinping?
Xi Jinping has a huge interest in making sure the strategic relationship between America and China stays on track and is not fundamentally torpedoed by some of the problems which have emerged in the last 12 months, whether it's cyber or the rest. For them, they want peace and stability in the region. Why? Because they've got a huge economic growth task still ahead of them.
You know Xi Jinping well. He's somebody whose tenure overlapped with yours. You also speak Mandarin. Our impression of him from the U.S. is that he has really solidified control of the Communist Party in China. What kind of a person is he?
Xi Jinping is intensely intelligent. His grasp on political power is as complete as it can be within that system. He reads history, reads his own country's history, and I think has a sense of mission about where he wants to take China. And that is a dream which he describes as the China dream, wealth and power, a Chinese nation strong enough not to be pushed around by anybody else anymore after 100 years of what they describe as foreign humiliation through until about 45.
When he says the Chinese dream, I've always wondered about this. Is this a direct response to the idea of the American dream? Is he defining it in opposition to what America is?
No, that's a great question. I've often asked myself this question. I haven't asked him. It's an unusual term to use in Chinese. If you ask political leaders, do you talk about your vision as being a dream for something, it doesn't fall off the tongue as easily as it does in this country. So I think there is a subtle twist there. If you look at the way in which the dream is explained in China, Republic billboards and the rest, it's about your personal dreams for your future, but it's about the country's dreams as well. And that's the qualitative difference, and therefore qualitatively different from America.
He's meeting right now today with tech leaders in Seattle. What is the best that he can hope to get out of that specific meeting? What does he want from U.S. CEOs?
This is a huge economic relationship, and therefore, from China's growth perspective, it is critical for the future as well. And frankly, there are big American interests involved, jobs and investment. Key sector for him for growth is what happens in IT. We all know Alibaba's success. We know Jack Ma. I've seen his operations in China and the others as well. This is a huge potential growth driver for the Chinese economy for the future if they can get innovation right and adapt it to the financial services industry and adapt it to the way in which consumer products operate. So he wants that sector in China to grow, mutual investment to occur. And at present, it's a product leader in China because there is no state-owned enterprise competing against it. The technology is too new.
But, I mean, the definition of success for him is competing against those companies, and Chinese companies, IT companies, have not had to compete at home. Can they thrive abroad in the way that U.S. companies, Facebook, Twitter, have thrived abroad?
Open question, because, as you rightly say, the competitive market within China varies enormously depending on the product or service. And some it's still pretty closed, and others it's increasingly open. What the big Chinese firms are discovering, however, to operate internationally, to operate as global firms, they need partnerships, which means they've got to work with American firms in a way in which they haven't done so before. It's a step beyond traditional comfort zones, but the smart folks, like Jack Ma and the rest, know this is the next step. And that it's no longer just an insulated Chinese market, big though that is. To grow, they've also got to grow global.
What's Chinese growth rate right now?
Well, you know the official numbers, and it's 7. My own take on that, through travelling to China a lot, is that it's somewhere in the vicinity of around 6. And 6 is important from a Chinese perspective because it's the internal definition of that which is necessary to sustain social stability.
When you say social stability, that could be a euphemism for control of the Communist Party. Is the Communist Party in danger, looking at the growth rate right now, of losing control of the country?
Absolutely not. I think sometimes there's a fair bit of wishful thinking in various parts of the West that might happen. People should also think through what happens if the Chinese Communist Party fell and China actually fell into immediate chaos. The consequences globally for refugees, for the stability of the global economy would be huge. So I think That is not the case. What is the case, though, is legitimacy from the Chinese Communist Party is partly an expression of their role in history, partly an expression, however, of their continued performance on the economy. So when I talk about social stability is, are you continuing to grow living standards? Are you continuing to bring people out of poverty? And critically, are you still generating enough jobs for the 20 million or so entering the workforce each year?
One part of that development and explicit goal of the Chinese government has been to get consumers into the equity markets. That has not worked out very well at all over the course of the summer, as you well know. How do you link the volatility in the equity markets to the actual underlying Chinese economy?
I don't really, and I've looked at this quite closely, and I've asked many of my Chinese interlocutors about this as I've been there. I think the first point on the equities market itself, massive instability, state intervention, ongoing uncertainty, and there's a great degree of soul-searching in China at the moment as to what went wrong and how to improve it. But on the real economy, let's bear in mind that as a source of corporate finance, it's probably about 2% of corporate finance within China, and as a reflection of other sentiment within the Chinese economy, I don't think it actually holds a lot in terms of being a real barometer. The growth challenges within the Chinese economy are of a different nature. Net exports contributing much less to the economy because of the softness of global demand. Traditionally, net exports has driven Chinese growth. Now it actually is a lag factor in pulling down on growth. And as net exports has come down this way, private domestic consumption hasn't gone up rapidly enough to actually offset the difference, hence the growth difficulty.
Kevin Rudd, thank you very much. Kevin Rudd, former Prime Minister of Australia, current president of the Asia Society, and let us not forget, former rodeo rider. Matt,
Failed.
back to you.